Welcome back to your C++ tutorial, and today we're looking at another example of exception handling. So when working with exception handling, it's good to firstly set up the framework. So type try, then catch, and then the parameters, and this way you don't need to type up a whole load of code. It's simpler and less confusing if you set up the framework first and work your way in. So we'll set up a really simple calculator in this program. We'll input two numbers. Make sure the bottom number is not a 0 because you cannot divide by 0. And we'll set up two variables, int num1 and cout, and type in enter, first number, end line. Then a way to enter that number, enter num1. The arrow shows a direction in which the information is flowing. When you output something, this text is going to your computer screen. When you input something like the text, it will get stored on your computer as variable. So the information is flown to the user and back into the computer. So the number which has been entered is stored in the variable, number 1. Let's copy and paste it here and change this to 2 and enter second number. As long as a number is entered for number 1, it doesn't matter what the number is. However, it does matter for number 2. The second number cannot be equal to 0 because you can't divide by 0. So we'll have an error message come up whenever we try to divide by 0. Then we'll type a simple if statement. If num2 is equal to 0, and we'll put it as an exception, the number 0. So remember, if number 2 is not equal to 0, that means that the numbers that they enter were valid. So let's print the answer on the screen. Num1 divided by num2, end line. So if 0 is entered as a second number, an error will show up. If two variables are entered, it'll get an answer by dividing the top number by the bottom number. Now you can pass in a number to use as an error reference number. So if you get an error message, just type cout and something along the lines of cout, you can't divide by x. So every time you input 0, it'll pass it in as x and say you can't divide by 0. So we'll test it by running a program which works well. So the first number is 32 and second number 16. So divide 32 by 16 and you get 2. And the program works perfectly. So say we put 32 as our first number and then enter 0 as our second number. We'll get an error message because you can't divide by 0. So basically you can have lots of catch blocks to catch a variety of error messages. On this occasion I showed you an integer error message, but you can catch different types like a double or even a character. Now what you need to know is whenever you want any error message to be caught and you don't know what error message is going to happen, you can use this ... So whenever an error message is thrown in, it'll be caught by the ... It could be a double, an int, a character, or whatever. So whilst you can catch specific types of error messages, the ... is what you'll usually see. So we'll run this program. We have number 32 and try to divide by 0, but we get an error message because we can't divide by 0. So as well as catching different types of error messages, you can also catch general error messages, which is the most common. So hopefully you've understood that. If you did, then it means you now know most of what there is to understand about exception handling. And we've covered the basics here about exception handling. So I really do hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.